Hello and welcome to Digital Mindfulness. This is a bonus show where today I'm going to be talking again to the smart buildings expert, Ken Sinclair. This show is really a distillation of the talk I was going to give at the AHR Expo 2019, which for reasons outside of my control, I'm now unable to attend. But we thought that even though I am unable to deliver this talk in person, that it would actually be of real benefit to everyone involved if we were to record an interview between us and then distill down the main points of the talk and then share it with you all. So enjoy this show with Ken Sinclair. In this show, we really talk about the future of digitally mindful smart buildings, education, and in particular, how we can more sustainably and again more quickly reach this humane digitized future for buildings. So Ken, it's a real pleasure to be on the line with you again for the Digital Mindfulness Show, and I'm really looking forward to our discussion about digitally mindful buildings. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
One of the things that I know that you've been writing about and that you are going to be talking about at the conference is this whole idea of building emotions, and I'm really fascinated for you to share just exactly what this whole idea is, because it's something that I think everybody should know.
Okay, thanks, Lawrence, for asking. It actually came when we first met at what I call the Helsinki Headshake, when we went out to the Nordic Smart Building Convention, and we first met, and you were on the docket explaining more about what digital mindfulness actually meant. But it was also a lot of the folks at the conference were looking more towards humanistic relationship with the buildings, which kind of hit me. I've always been kind of coming at it from a technology point of view, so this seemed quite a shift in thought. So we wrote an article and we called it Building Emotion, and we kind of did a play on words where that becomes both a noun and a verb and any other adjective you want it to be. And the idea is that every building does, in fact, have emotion because it contains people, and the people within the building have emotions. And if we can capture that, I think that has something to do with what you're talking about in our journey to digital mindfulness.
Absolutely, because I think whenever people ask me what digital mindfulness is, and the first thing I think people in general think about is mindfulness, right? They'll think about meditating, etc. But actually, what I'm trying to really get across is the whole idea that with all of these technological and digital signals that we come into contact with every single day, our screens, our Wi-Fi, our emails, all of these signals, that actually, I think putting all of these different artifacts together in exactly the right way for the right people at the right time is a combination of art and science, right? We can't just be bombarded by this. Otherwise, people are going to have terrible, terrible experiences. And of course, this is what we're finding out now in perhaps, people, I guess, in perhaps the technological backlash that came, in 2018. People are really starting to question how they're connected and why they're being connected in such a way. And I think from my part, certainly from when we met in person, I'm really fascinated to see and to kind of understand now, but also to envision just the role that digitized buildings can play in this. And, it might sound like a little bit of an aside, but all of our spaces now are becoming digitized. And I think it is really, I think that, we were just having this discussion recently, I know, Ken, but the way that we digitize our spaces has a potentially profound impact on people the world over.
I agree. And I think the other piece that's moving rapidly is the the edification, if that's a word, of technology, in the fact that we have the ability to move more power right out to the devices, and the devices can talk to us, basically have machine vision interaction with us, and a lot of other human-like traits. And I think this becomes uh, an opportunity for us, because we're doing this incredibly different approach to our industry. It becomes an amazing opportunity for us to do that mindfully. And so therefore, and I think you did a podcast on this, on digital mindful machines, and I think we're at that point. And part of our session at AHR Atlanta speaks to that: open hardwares, open softwares, and open minds. And we're just seeing kind of big shift in that. While we're making this incredible shift, I think it's quite easy for us to trowel in mindfulness, because we're doing stuff completely different than we've done it before. So I'm not sure that anybody will notice that the mindfulness actually got included.
So, Ken, when you are talking about digitally mindful machines and in particular edification, can you just define what you mean by that term exactly?
The fact that the devices are getting smarter and having capabilities. I guess the simplest thing for the public would be is I've just bought one of these Amazon controllers for the TV, and it basically, the remote has a button on it, and inside of the remote is a connection to Amazon Echo. And we're starting to see that in our industry as well, as the Ecobee thermostats now have an Amazon interface, so you can talk to them to turn the temperature up. You can also talk to them and ask them what the temperature, or what the weather forecast is, or anything else that Amazon Echo knows. And we're starting to see a similar reaction, of course, with Hey Google. And so we're seeing more of a seamless interface. And I guess this all leads to our next theme, which is open. And we're seeing open, and everybody asks us, what do you mean by open? And it's just this myriad of devices that are closer to what we're physically doing, that actually interact with each other, interact with the devices, and now are starting to bridge the humanistic gap. It's interesting, if you have Amazon Echo, there's the concern about it listening all the time. It's kind of interesting to have a device that when you put your finger on the button, it does what you ask it to, but when you take your finger off the button, it's out of the room. So that's kind of an interesting thing. So it's starting to see a lot of interfaces. I'm intrigued by the work you're doing with Google and other folks, because that will have a ripple effect on our industry. Ever how those folks figure out the humanistic side of making their devices interact with folks, then we'll probably start to follow those. And in fact, we may even inherit and make their pieces part of our pieces of products. Simplest thing is something that opens the door. And again, in Helsinki, the concept of a deviceless interface. In fact, that the actual device can recognize who you are, and when it sees you coming, it can open the door and wish you good morning, and carry on a conversation. And that's I think a direction that we're slowly heading. A better blend of technology and humanistic relationships.
I think calling this approach building emotion, as you mentioned recently, that it is, it's an adjective, it's a noun, and it's a verb as well. I think it's incredibly apt. particularly when we start to imagine different aspects of what we've been talking about here at Digital Mindfulness for years now. Like, as you mentioned, like screen-free computing and how you can do that in a mindful way, and using other things like sensors, etc., in a mindful way. So I think this is fascinating, and of course, this is exactly what what is going to be the subject of the talk. So tell me, Ken, at the conference, what is it exactly that you're going to be sharing with the audience there?
Well, we've got 9 sessions, believe it or not, which is a lot for us. We normally do about 4, so it's almost double plus. The first one is called The Future of Building Automation, Creating Our New Persona, Building Emotion. And we're going to chat a little bit about that and just try and figure out how we're going to make that bridge. And then we've got some what I call realists. I always tell stories about the way things should be, or I want them to be, and then I always run into this darn reality people who tell me what's really happening. But it's always a good combination because we kind of push each other, and ironically, often reality is ahead of my stories, which always excites me. But that'll be that kind of a session. And then we've got a couple of training sessions because we need to badly retrain our people. I suspect this is a problem of most industries, and it was requested by the seminar by the AHR people to have a couple of sessions that people could kind of get a toehold and try and find out why we talk so funny and become part of us. And then our afternoon session, of course, was with yourself, and we were going to talk about smart environments for humans. And thank you very much for the article that you provided. That was just great. It kind of helped set the scene, and we'll refer to that in the session now. And we're deeply grieved that I was looking forward to introducing you to our crowd of people.
As am I. And I think, this whole idea of smart environments for humans, it's just fascinating, just who exactly is interested in this space now, because it's not just the buildings industry who would be interested in things like this, but when you are talking about things like live events, for example, or when you are talking about, say, sports stadiums, etc., the whole idea then of smart environments for actual humans, it does become incredibly important, how those environments are designed and what technology you're using for that and how we can design that humanistically, as you put it.
Yeah, it's great. It's fascinating for sure. And we have some other sessions, we're calling them education sessions. Another one, Smart Building Automation Evolution from Ethernet to Emotion. And so I'm trying to create a couple of dots there that I can join as we've kind of suggesting the hard technology to this emotional side. And I'm trying, my main pitch of all the sessions is to try and get our folks, the technology folks, thinking a little bit more humanistically. And again, then our next session is the next generation of HVAC controls, open hardware, open software. That's an interesting concept for us from a technology point of view. We've experienced open software before and seen the power of that, but we haven't really seen the fact that all of these little controllers now are completely open. And probably the easiest way for non-technicals to understand it is we now have the power of a total PC inside of a controller. So we can create the personality. Each edge controller can now have a personality that we can first decide whether we're going to use a Unix operating system or a Windows operating system. We can decide whether we're going to use Amazon Web Services and Echo voice control, or we just load all of this stuff up as we would any kind of capability, and then this thing gets stapled to a controller because the physical size of this is like 2 inches by 2 inches, and the cost of it is so cheap that it's the processor. We basically buy it for the processor, and it comes with all of these web capabilities. It's able to call out and have an interaction with web information. So these whole controllers are just becoming incredibly smart, and we're starting to see artificial intelligence, self-learning routines are becoming pretty common. And now we just have to figure out what the heck to do with an incredible tool like that. And then we have another session after that with what I call the old sages of the industry. And this is our 7th annual, we call it the Connection Community Collaboration. And it's all of 7 years ago, we were walking around trying to decide what is it we do. And we finally decided as an industry, all we really do is connect things. And we connect temperature sensors, we connect VAV boxes and air conditioners and lights, and we just connect things to things. And so we're in the connection industry. And so we, as leaders in the connection industry, all from various points of view, whether they were wireless or open standards, we all got together and we would have just a little discussion as to where we saw things going. And this is our 7th year. And I've added exploring our human connection, our new connection. We've been always talking about technical connections. I think 2 years ago, we were hard into wireless. Last year, the open hardware concept came, the Raspberry Pis and the Beagle boards and hardware devices actually significantly changing our industry. And this year, I'm hoping to talk about our human connection, which is something as an industry we don't have a lot of experience in at all. And then actually we got one more, which is the future of supermaster systems integrators. And in our industry, we have folks whose job is to integrate all this connection. And it's getting way more complicated because there's getting more things to integrate. And it's a moving target. And now we have to integrate one more thing. And the most important thing, we have to integrate the people into the process. And again, we're still struggling because we've come from the control industry, so we've had to learn the IT industry, which we did. And now we have to learn what it is you're talking about so we can incorporate that in our integrations. And that may be the super in the title, the future of super master systems integrators, the next level. Anyway, so that's just sort of some of the stuff we're chatting about. So you can see we're certainly using all of your teachings as a springboard.
Absolutely. And I think I think also it'd be really great to have you back on the show with other luminaries of the smart buildings industry, and to really just discuss what's going to be happening in 2019 and how we can better imagine digitizing humanely our spaces, basically in a way that's going to be beneficial for people. So I'm really looking forward to having you back on the show for that.
Super. Pleased to do that.
Amazing. Well, Ken, look, it's been short, but certainly it's been sweet. And so it's a real pleasure to have you back on the show. And I'm looking forward to talking to you again.
Okay. Thank you.